This is NASA TV.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I'm Sandra Jones, and we're here today to talk about the upcoming Crew-5 mission, where 4 astronauts will launch to the International Space Station as part of NASA's Commercial Crew program. We're going to hear from a few folks off the top, and then they'll give their opening remarks, and we'll move right into our question and answer session with those media in the room, as well as media on the phone bridge. I'm going to start off by introducing our participants, and then I'll hand it over for opening remarks. Joining us today in the room is Catherine Leaders, the Associate Administrator for Space Operations Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters in Washington, Steve Stitch, Manager of the Commercial Crew Program at NASA Johnson, and Joel Montalbano, Manager of the International Space Station Program at NASA Johnson. We also have 3 folks joining us virtually today, and those are Benjamin Reed, who is the Senior Director of Human Spaceflight Program at SpaceX, as well as Hiroshi Sasaki, the Vice President and Director General of the Human Spaceflight Technology Directorate at JAXA, and Sergei Krikalev, Executive Director of Human Space Programs at Roscosmos. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kathy for some opening remarks.
Well, I always know when I'm sitting here with Joel and Steve, we're getting ready to fly people, and so super, super exciting time in human space flight right now. But first of all, I wanted to also talk about the fact that, you know, we always talk about space flight being a team sport, and this news conference is going to exemplify that, how it is a team sport. First in August, just to underscore that, we have multiple exciting activities going on. First of all, today we have a NASA payload flying, ShadowCam, flying on the Korean Pathfinder lunar orbiter. Very exciting mission for us with a new partner that we have. And then coming up is on the Russian EVA on August 17th, followed by SpaceX 25, our cargo mission coming back on the 18th, just packed full of the science and payloads and an EVA suit that we're bringing down to be able to assess the EVAs and get ready to go do our EVAs again. So very, very, very exciting time. And as you guys know, we got a big event coming up at the end of the month with rollout of Artemis 1 mission and then launch of that mission on the 29th of August. Very, very exciting time. And then I haven't even gotten into the ISS events coming up. So in September, we're heading into our campaign of our first round of integrated crew missions with the new SpaceX vehicle. And so we're very, very happy that we have Frank Rubio flying up on the Soyuz on September 21st. And then we have this multinational crew going up with Nicole Mann being a female commander, leading Josh Koichi from our JAXA colleagues, one of our JAXA crew members, and then obviously Anna, who we're very proud to have flying on our missions. So this is again a sign of our international collaboration and us working together as a team to go conduct our missions. So let me just finish off by once again talking about this is when we're exemplifying how we continue to lead and partner in human spaceflight and across the missions going forward. And with that, I'm going to introduce Steve Stitch, who is our Commercial Crew Program Manager.
Thanks, Kathy. It's certainly an honor to be here today, and coming off of a busy spring, it's another exciting time getting ready for our 5th crew rotation flight and our 4th crew handover coming up in a short few weeks. You know, our team is dedicated to every flight, making them as safe as possible and continuing to dive into problems. Right now, we're targeting a launch no earlier than the 29th of September. I suspect we'll adjust that date a little bit as we get in a little closer due to the proximity to the Soyuz operations. We understand how important that operation is. Most of the hardware for the flight is already down in Florida. There is one component that we still have to deliver, SpaceX needs to deliver down to the Cape, and that's the booster, the first stage booster. It is at McGregor, Texas, and it's actually going to go through a hot fire test and a proof pressure test here later this week in preparation for shipment to the launch site in a little around a month from now. Of course, that booster had a little bit of damage during shipping. We worked through that and repaired a few components. The NASA and SpaceX team worked seamlessly to remove and replace the inner stage and a few other components on that vehicle and get those tested and ready to go fly. The Dragon spacecraft, we're going to refly Endurance, which was the Crew-5 spacecraft, and that is in Dragonland and going through processing. The heat shield has been mated. You know, we've had a few issues with heat shields in the past, making it through their acceptance testing, and this one has made it, and it's ready for flight. The Dragon spacecraft, probably the biggest new thing on this flight is the forward thrusters that we use for the big maneuvers. We're going to reuse all those for the first time as we embark upon more reused components for both Dragon and F9. We are super excited to be here in Commercial Crew. We're excited to fly Anna for the first time. It's very exciting to fly a Russian cosmonaut, and we're looking forward to that and looking forward to a great flight when we get to that point. And I'll turn it over to Joel Montalbano.
Hey, thank you, Steve. And again, welcome to the Crew-5 pre-launch press brief. You know, it seems like just yesterday we were here talking about Crew-4 and Steve Stitch's birthday, launching on that day. And tomorrow marks 100 days for Crew-4 on orbit. And that crew has been extremely busy doing the utilization and research, the technology development for exploration, as well as our commercial low Earth orbit activities. And, you know, with Crew-5, we're looking at about a 5 to 6 month mission. Generally, we have about 250 to 300 experiments for the crew to do. And again, looking forward and preparing for this mission. As Kathy mentioned, we have a number of activities this August. She mentioned the Russian EVA on the 17th. Looking forward to SpaceX 25 return on the 18th. And then, as many of you are well aware, just a few weeks ago, we were in Moscow and signed the Integrated Crew Agreement. And so that Integrated Crew Agreement provides for a Soyuz and SpaceX mission, one a year in 22, 23, and 24. So we're excited to look forward to this September, as Kathy mentioned, with Frank Rubio on Soyuz on September 21st. And then that Soyuz will return on the 29th. And as Steve mentioned, we'll be looking to launch the Crew-5 after that. Again, no earlier than 29th, but we're working to probably move that a few days to the right. Last week, I think everybody's aware that Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022, which included a NASA Authorization Act, the first in 5 years. And included in that was basically codifying an ISS extension. And so with that behind us now, we'll be working with our international partners as they go through their governmental processes on ISS extension. So once again, it's excited to have Crew-5 up there. You know, it's incredible. You look on board, the crew members are always smile on their face. You know, the work they do and the work they do on orbit, the work they do to benefit people here on Earth is just amazing. I can tell you that the teams at Johnson, the teams at Marshall, the teams at all the NASA centers, as well as our international partners are ready for this mission, and we're excited to be talking about it with you today. With that, let me hand it over to Benji at SpaceX.
Great. Thank you, Joel. It's an honor to be here, as always, and great to see Kathy, Joel, and Steve all there. Sorry I'm not with you guys in Houston at the moment, but we're here in Hawthorne, getting ready for this great flight coming up, and we're really looking forward to flying Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna. This will be a mission of firsts. It'll be our first female commander for Dragon, and also the first time we fly a cosmonaut. So that's always exciting. Crew-5 will be our 8th human spaceflight mission, which is constantly kind of mind-blowing to me to think about how far we've come in this partnership with NASA, with Commercial Crew Program, and with ISS in just the last few years. It's also our 7th specific human spaceflight mission to the International Space Station. As part of making that happen, along with our cargo missions, we have 4 Crew Dragons in our fleet and 2 Cargo Dragons, with a 3rd Cargo Dragon coming on later this year, getting ready for CRS 26, as Joel mentioned. This will actually be the second flight. Crew-5 mission will be the second flight of the Dragon Endurance spacecraft, which previously flew on Crew-3 to and from station. I'd like to take a quick moment to talk about a couple of items that we were paying attention to in preparation on the hardware for this mission. One of them was some transport damage that occurred on the first stage, on our booster stage of the rocket. While in transport, the booster stage came in contact with a bridge in the route, basically on the way down between Hawthorne and Texas and McGregor. And we assessed that damage. It was actually a fairly minor incursion, but it still caused some damage. We decided to replace the composite interstage and some of the other components on that first stage. We went through a very robust process of analysis and test to assure that stage would be ready to go and absolutely safe to fly the crew as we do for every mission. We want to make sure it's as safe as we've all certified it to be, and that we're confident in flying the crew members. Nonetheless, the stage will go through its full testing round down at McGregor, and it's doing that right now. So we've gotten through all of our analyses and our assessments. We've gotten through all of the replace or repair that we needed to do, and now we'll put it through a rigorous standardized tests to make sure that it's ready to fly on its way, and then head it on down to Florida. So that'll be good. Another thing that I wanted to mention was that there were some findings on the return of the Crew-3 parachutes. Really just one finding. There was a small bit of damage discovered on a single main canopy of the chute system. We believe that what happened there was a little bit of the overall parachute system came in contact with that canopy, caused a small bit of damage to the canopy itself. There was actually no impact that we could measure, that we could see in terms of overall performance of the vehicle. Certainly the crew on Crew-3 during the return were never at risk. And there was no significant change in the environments that were detected during Crew-3. This is within this kind of contact, this kind of little bit of damage is all definitely within the performance capabilities of the parachute system, and within our expected analyses. However, as always, in an abundance of caution and always looking to improve and further increase safety for the crew members and reliability for all of our missions, we are continuing down the path of doing analyses and testing, and jointly in bringing NASA along very closely with that to ensure that there's nothing else there that we're concerned about, and particularly really to help us improve and see what we can do to even further improve the safety of the parachute system. But based on all of the data and assessments that we've done so far, we are confident that there is no risk coming from this to the team, that this crew on station, Crew-4 that's on station needs to return, and then also the Crew-5 vehicle when we're getting ready to launch it. So just wanted to make sure that we mentioned a couple of those items that we've been tracking. But again, everything's on track for this mission and on track for keeping the crew safe and launching them safely and bringing them home safely to their families at the end of the mission. Kathy mentioned it earlier, but I think it's great to give a quick shout out to our Falcon and launch teams and everybody at SpaceX, and also our partners on the Korea Pathfinder Lunar Orbiter, or KPLO mission, which will be launching to the moon in just a few hours. Again, it's really exciting to meet all of what we're doing together and all of these great partnerships like the International Space Station and all these great folks that were here on the call right now. And I'll note, just as a side note, that today's launch will be the 34th mission for SpaceX this year. And we had launched 31 last year. So that's amazing. So go teams, and thank you to all of our customers and partners and their trust. And specifically today, I want to thank NASA, JAXA, Roscosmos for your trust and your partnership, certainly want to thank the crew members and their families for their trust. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to all the SpaceXers and their families for everything that you do every day to make this possible. We are grateful for the opportunity to fly Crew-5 and looking forward to it. And of course, bringing Crew-4 home safely. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to JAXA Director General Sasaki.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I'm Hiro Sasaki, Vice President of JAXA, responsible for human spaceflight and space exploration. First of all, on behalf of JAXA, I would like to sincerely appreciate the NASA leadership and all the members, including SpaceX, who are working so hard for the Crew-5 launch preparation and continuing the ISS operations. I'm very pleased that astronaut Koichi will board the Crew-5 with US astronaut and Russian cosmonaut and participate in the long-term mission in the ISS. This is his 5th flight, highest number of flights made by Japanese astronaut. It is a first flight for the 3 crew members who will be onboarded with Koichi. I'm confident that his extensive experience will be a great assistance. I hope he will achieve this mission with all crew members as one team. During his stay, JAXA plans to conduct various utilizations. I would like to show 3 items based on the Open Platform Partnership Program between Japan and the US. First, material property measurement using the electrostatic levitation furnace for better glass manufacture. Second, robot programming competition in which about 1,400 students from 12 Asia Pacific countries and regions participated. Third, rodent habitation research under partial gravity for future human lunar exploration. In addition, as an original initiative of JAXA, we will conduct a combustion experiment under high O2 concentration that will contribute to fire safety in future space exploration. JAXA will continue its effort on Kibo from a wide range of perspectives, including the contribution for better life on the ground and technology demonstrations for future space exploration. Since the Crew-1, Japanese astronauts have been onboarded on the Crew Dragon every year. Astronaut Furukawa is also signed up for upcoming flight. In addition, we are currently in the process of selecting new astronauts from more than 4,000 applicants. We expect to announce the result of selection during Koichi's stay, and he will hear the news in the ISS. We will continue our effort to ensure that Japanese astronauts will keep playing an important role in progressing human space exploration and development. Thank you for your attention. I'd like to hand over Sergei Karukhanov, Executive Director of Roscosmos.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Dear
Мне
colleagues,
очень
hello.
приятно видеть
I am
как
happy
знакомые, давно, много лет уже
to
знакомые
see
лица, так
faces
и
that
новые
I
лица, которые,
have known for many years,
с которыми мы
as well as
встречаемся на
new
этой конференции.
faces that I'm only getting to see at this conference for the first time.
Последовательно идет, да? Я хотел бы, может быть, немножко пояснить
like
причину вот этих, как мы называем, перекрестные полеты или совместные интегрированные
Explain
экипажи.
why the need for
Об этой программе мы говорили уже много
cross
лет.
flights where
Совсем недавно, наконец,
partner
было подписано
astronauts
соглашение,
flying
благодаря которому
on other partners'
наши
vehicles.
члены экипажа могут летать на
Recently,
кораблях друг
an
друга.
agreement was signed
Причина
to this effect,
этого
to
является
enable
то, что мы
astronauts and
работаем, в
cosmonauts
общем-то,
fly on partner vehicles.
экстремальной
The
ситуации
reason
и
for
экстремальной
this
для
is
техники,
that we
экстремальной
are
для людей.
working in
Всегда
extreme
стараемся
environments
обеспечить надежность этой
for
программы.
both hardware
И
and
надежность
people, and we
программы
always strive to
обеспечивается
increase the reliability
страховкой друг друга.
of the
На первом
program.
этапе
And this is
Международной
done
космической
by
станции мы использовали и корабли
supporting
«Союз», и
each
«Шаттл»
other
для
and
того,
providing
чтобы доставлять
redundancy
экипажи и грузы на
earlier, we had shuttles and Soyuz vehicles to deliver cargo and people to and from the station. Then we had a period of time when only one vehicle was available. Now we have more vehicles available for delivery of cargo vehicles, and with that we would like to move on to the arrangement where crew members from one partner can fly on vehicles of another partner, and this increases the sustainability and reliability of the program, because this ensures that both US and Russian segments will always have professional crew members available to fly and support the operation. As far as training is concerned, our crew members are still in the final stages of training. There will be several more events for integrated crews in Russia and in the US. And I am confident that this mission will open a new page for our cooperation, where our cooperation will be even more reliable. Thank you.
And thanks to our briefers for those initial remarks. As a reminder, we'll be taking questions on the phone bridge as well as here in the room about the upcoming Crew-5 mission to the International Space Station. If you're on the phone, please press *1 to add your name to our queue and ask a question. Once your name is called, please state your name, affiliation, and to whom you'd like to direct your question. If you do find that your question about Crew-5 has already been answered, please press *2 to withdraw it. Let's start on our phone bridge with Marvin Marshall with Nighttime News Space Report.
Hi, my name is Marvin Marshall from the Nighttime News Space Report. Thank you for having us today. So I guess my question goes out to Benji here. Now, for Crew-5 here, are there any upgrades? I know we talked about upgrades on the Falcon 9. Now, what are some notable upgrades that we can talk about that you guys have done here on that Crew-5 capsule since launching on Crew-3? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. One of the things that I love about this now being the 8th human space flight and the 7th to station is I feel like we're starting to kind of lock in a good configuration of the vehicle. But that said, we're constantly hungry and looking for everything we can do to make all vehicles and all operations safer, and taking all the lessons learned from each mission. So we do expect there to kind of be a constant flow of certain upgrades or changes or things that are coming out of lessons, and like I said, making things safer. In general, there's not a lot of major new upgrades though to the capsule for this mission. What I will say is that we have a couple of first-time reflight items. The forward bulkhead Draco engines. This will be the first time we refly those engines for a NASA mission. And I believe those previously flew on the Crew-3 mission before. And then also on the windows, our interior window panes, the pressure panes, these will be the first time that we refly those that particular item on any mission. So we're always looking for ways, again, to improve and update, but also to maximize reusability when it's safe and when it's the correct thing to do, because reusability long term ultimately improves reliability, because it allows us to learn as we fly again and again. That said, there are also new items on capsules, and so for this flight, this has a new heat shield, new pods and seats, and of course, for human space flight, we always fly new parachutes for NASA. Hopefully that answers your question.
Great, thanks. Next up, we have a question in the room. Mark?
Thank you, Mark Carreau for Aviation Week and Space Technology. I believe I'm addressing my question to Joel. If you get the Morris Moore spacesuit back and can address any concerns, and we're able to begin, scheduled spacewalks, what sort of activities kind of come first or with urgency? Is it working the solar arrays? Are there some other things in addition, or just some sense, and I don't know if you have a schedule or not, but sort of a bit of a timeline. Thank you.
Good question. So our plan is to get the spacesuit home on SpaceX 25, like we said, coming home on the 18th. Our goal is to get to planned EVA capability such that we could do the spacewalks to support the 2 new solar arrays coming up on SpaceX 26 later this year. And so what we'll do is we'll bring that suit home. The team will need about 45 days or so to kind of take a look at the suit, do some of the analysis on the suit, take a look and make sure that what we're seeing is kind of doesn't give us any smoking guns of, we have some assumptions of what's causing the water. And then bringing the suit home will allow us to confirm that. But then the plan is to go ahead and move into the solar arrays. So we'll have the first, we'll do about 3 EVAs. The second 2 will be to install the 2 solar arrays. The first EVA will be go out there and install some support structures for the next set of EVAs, not for these 2 solar arrays, but for the 3rd set of solar arrays. But that'll get us some practice, get out there, and then we'll go ahead and install the 2 arrays that are brought up on SpaceX 26.
Great. We'll take another question from our phone bridge. We have Elizabeth Howell with space.com.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for your time. This will be for 3 people, person from NASA and also the representatives from JAXA and Roscosmos. Could you give us the latest about the Russian changes and the participation in the space station and how the agency partners will be managing the transition? Thank you.
Well, let me start. We had a very good multilateral control board. It's where all the partnerships get together and talk about their current plans. And we had it last Friday, and each of the partners went through and talked about where they are from their working through their final approvals. Joel obviously, gave a summary in his opening remarks on where we are from our perspective. We're getting legislation through the Congress that affirms and gives us direction to continue the space station through 2030, and obviously still needs to get final buy-off from the president. But all of the other governments are also working through their plans and incrementally looking at support. So I would say it was very helpful to hear where everybody was from their progress. I think all of us are looking at the planning, laying in the next steps for getting approval. Obviously, in some cases, there's multiple steps, just like for us as we're working legislation. We've got to wait and see kind of what the government desires each of us to do. So I think to be fair, they're still in their process of getting approval, and the goal would be to talk about their progress at our next MCB, which will be planned in the next 6-7 months.
Okay. I wasn't joined the MCB, and JAXA now continue to work closely with international partners to ensure the stable ISS operations. And for the ISS extensions, JAXA conducting the assessment of the technically, and we don't have any issues of the ISS extension. So we want to continue supporting the ISS program with the international partners. That's all.
Ну и с российской стороны я хотел бы продолжить то, что говорили мои коллеги,
I would like to echo the same sentiment that my colleagues have expressed. The station was designed initially for 15 years, and the operation has been extended a couple of times. Now, all of us have agreed to operate the station through 2024, and in order to continue past that, the technical condition must be evaluated carefully, which is now being done by the Russian specialists. Of course, the station will have an end eventually. New spacecraft will replace the ISS, and we are looking into projects for the new station. But for now, we are working on extending the operation on the ISS. We don't know for how long yet past 2024, but until 2024, the work will continue nominally and in accordance with the international agreements. If there is a technical reason to terminate operation of a particular element of the station, we will, of course, coordinate that with our partners per our interface procedures to make this transitional period as seamless as possible for all program participants.
Next up, we'll take a question in the room. Gina.
Sinceri, ABC News. Steve, what does planning look like for the other vehicle you hope to launch this year, Starliner?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Starliner. Thanks for the question. You know, we're still in the middle of reviewing the data from that flight and from the OFT-2 flight. That should wrap up here in the next few weeks, and then we'll look forward to what's the next step relative to baselining a launch date for that. I suspect we'll move into next year a little bit in the next few weeks. The vehicle's coming along well. That crew module for the CFT vehicle is being processed at the Crew and Cargo Processing Facility. The parachutes are actually installed for that vehicle already, and the interior work is progressing well. The crew's doing training already for that flight, and the service module's being built up in preparation for that flight. The flight software testing and finalization is underway. In fact, we just approved between the NASA and Boeing last week a few changes to the software coming out of the orbit flight test. So, you know, I think, you know, we'll baseline a date early next year in the next few weeks, and then we'll move on from there. Quite a bit of work still to go, I would say, but it's progressing well. The NASA and Boeing team is working extremely well together on that flight, and we're excited to get that first crewed flight operational very soon. So.
And like we promised, we'll be doing an update, a focused update at the end of August, and plan on, just like we've done, just like today, we'll give you a status on kind of where the team is and getting ready for that mission too.
Our next question comes from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Oh, hi. Yes, my question is for Sergey. Assuming the International Space Station is still working well and everything is holding together, what is your best understanding of when Russia might pull out of the partnership? Would it be closer to 2024 or 2030? And for the NASA officials, I'm wondering how much additional stress resulted from last week's post-2024 announcement by the new space director of Russia, since it was coming on top of the continuing tensions with Russia over the war in Ukraine. Thank you.
So maybe, Sergey, I'll start. I think, Marcia, I actually feel like like I talked about, we had a really good multilateral control board. Obviously, there's a continued partnership that we have across the board, and this partnership's been very, very important to us in all kinds of, under different kinds of conditions. And I think the team's been carefully working through, like Sergey said, first the technical assessments. We've obviously done our technical assessments on our side through 2028, which is what supported our ability to be able to go and make the recommendation first to the White House and then have that carried forward over to the Congress, and is really supporting kind of the current legislation that's upcoming for us to extend all the way to 2030. Obviously, all the partners, you know, our intent from a NASA perspective is obviously to stay in LEO and continue to use the station extension as a continuance while we're also developing our commercial LEO platforms. And I think that strategy has been consistent across the board, and obviously other partnerships are looking at that strategy. You know, we need to continue to do this step by step. Yeah, as we all know, that there's a process for each one of us to go through, first technically to assess it, and then lay in their integrated strategies and how to work and what their strategies are in low Earth orbit. And so I think this is continued process for each of us. But what we found out last week, and like I keep talking about, I don't know if people realize that boards are exciting things, but boards are really where, we come and talk together. And it was very heartening to hear the progress and the support across the board from each of our partnerships for us to continue to work together in space and to continue to look at and plan together for our LEO work that we're going to be doing in space.
Perhaps I will add to Kathy's words. Indeed, cooperation is very important in a program like this for all partners. As far as the statement for 2024, perhaps something was lost in the translation, but the statement actually said that Russia will not pull out of the program until after 2024. This means up until the end of 2024, there will be no changes. And after 2024 may mean 2025, 2028, or 2030. And the specific concrete decision about termination of the program will be based on the technical condition of the station and the assessment of all partners.
Our next question is on the phone bridge, and it comes from Isam Ahmed with AFP.
Hi, thank you for doing this. This question is for Benjamin Reed. I was wondering, is SpaceX looking at an evolution of Dragon that can perform reboost and or attitude control for the station? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Our contracts with NASA are for carrying crew and cargo to and from the station, and we're very excited to stay focused on that. Certainly, we're here to serve NASA, our customer, and the international partnership in whatever is the best way we can, but we're keeping our eye on the ball, which is very much focused on crew and cargo missions.
Our next question comes from Jeff Faust with Space News.
Good afternoon. This is a question probably for Kathy or Joel. You mentioned the integrated crew agreement covers one flight a year, I believe, through 2024. What are the plans to get Starliner included in that agreement so that you can do 2 flights a year and not have to toggle between integrated and non-integrated crews? Thanks.
You want to take it? Yeah. Go ahead.
So our plan is after we get past the CFT mission, we'll do an update to the agreement and work with our Russian colleagues such that our long-term goal is to have integrated crews on all the missions. But we wanted to get a couple of the Boeing missions moving forward, and right after CFT, we'll be putting that in work. But everybody understands kind of the long-term goal. We just are doing this in steps.
Okay, great. We do have another question on the phone bridge from Martin Bales with Czech News Center.
Hello.
We can hear you, Marvin.
This is Martin from the Czech Republic. I was wondering if at the board you mentioned, or another time, there will be a question for Ms. Luders and Mr. Krikalev. If you have discussed the event when Russian cosmonauts displayed the Donetsk and Luhansk flags, have the NASA and Roscosmos resolved this disagreement? Thank you.
So I think, there's obviously rules, and we have agreements on the different aspects of activities we do on the International Space Station. And I think that's a continued discussion item, and that we continue to work with our partnerships. And I think, we have a partnership that we continue to strengthen and enjoy, and we're always looking forward on how we continue to enrich that partnership and continue to meet both of our objectives.
And it looks like our last question on the phone bridge is from Marvin Marshall with Nighttime News Space Report.
Hi, my name is Marvin Marshall from the Nighttime News Space Report. Thank you for taking another question here. My question goes out to JAXA here. Now, you had mentioned the Kibo Robotic Programming Challenge, and the Kibo, I think it's RPC there. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Are we going to be performing another competition while Crew-5 is on station? Thank you.
Sorry, I'd like to confirm your questions. We plan to hold third competitions during the Wakata stage, Koichi stage. And what kind of competition are you talking about?
Yeah, most certainly. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think it's the Kibo, the KIBO RPC Robotic Programming Challenge that JAXA does there. And I was really just curious if there's going to be another, live stream competition while Crew-5 is on the space station there. Thank you.
Yeah, we are during the Kibo Programming Challenge. We plan to final round, maybe October and November timeframe. That's all from my explanations.
Thank you for that. We do have another question in the room. Mark, do you have a question? Yes. Okay.
Mark Carreau with the Aviation Week. I have a perspective question, and I'll kind of aim it towards Kathy leaders. However, among you, if you feel one or the other or more should answer, it's a perspective question on looking back to your earliest engagement with the station and sort of what you think, based on that, has happened in terms of the scientific research, the structure, and the international. Has it lived up, exceeded? I don't know, in a way, I'm asking, is this Apollo or more?
Well, I think what's amazing about the International Space Station, I'm definitely going to let Joel jump in too. But what I think is amazing about the International Space Station is how it was really created for establishing this peaceful endeavor, international peaceful endeavor in space. And honestly, it's been through these relationships with our international partners that we have really learned across the board and about teamwork, how to work together in space, that right now is taking us forward to our endeavors around the moon and on the moon and working together going to Mars. But what I also think is really amazing is that if we looked at how we're using space station today, and if I remember, I came into the space station program in 1999, we're doing things that we didn't even dream about doing in space station. We wouldn't have dreamed about commercial cargo vehicles. We wouldn't have dreamed about commercial crew vehicles. We wouldn't have dreamed about, other commercial laboratories on space. We wouldn't have dreamed about how, and I joke to Joel, I'm like, you're getting every ounce of value with new relationships, new partnerships with students, international partners, commercial partners, with our sister agencies. We are really fully utilizing this International Space Station now. We are actually kind of having problems because we're having people kind of fight about payload locations and what we're going on orbit, and we've got Earth instruments wanting to knock off astro instruments. I mean, so it's actually like this really, really amazing time in the International Space Station program. When we had the R&D conference last week, I mean, when you saw all the excitement and all the new users and folks there across the board, it was so exciting. And it is really appropriate that that conference was called the Decade of Results, because I kind of joke that we're seeing the numbers like of investigators, researchers, but I think what's really amazing is that, Kurt Costello said last week that I think we have, like 400 publications, but 185 of those have been in the last 2 years. So if you think about that, and I take that rate going forward, I told Joel, I said, I think I want to see like 15,000 papers done. You keep that rate, just keep duplicating that. We've got the log scale here, so that by the time we actually, like Sergey said, at some point we will have to deorbit space station. But man, do we want to use it. And I know the data we're getting on space station now will be used for tens of years, maybe 100 years out there, and people continuing to use that data for research. So Joel, let me let you jump in.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, one of my favorite questions, and I'm a little biased, but I think we have the data to back it up. We are doing amazing things. That Kathy mentioned, developing the commercial world. Besides being the blueprint for international cooperation and how what we do on board Space Station kind of sets the tone across the globe. The work we do on orbit, the life support work, the work we're doing on Space Station is going to help human spaceflight, not just the United States, but human spaceflight across the globe, leave low Earth orbit and go to, back to the moon, go to Mars. We have the luxury of flying, close to Earth and the ability to send frequent resupply ships up and down. But as we go further and further away from Earth, we won't have that luxury. So the fact that we're improving our life support system, the fact that we're looking to recover, 97, 98% of the water on board to reuse that. The work we do in our carbon dioxide removal system. We have a new carbon dioxide removal system, a number of little development test objectives that we're doing that's showing that we can have equipment that's smaller than what we launched on Space Station and be better on removing carbon dioxide. We're working an experiment with a company called Lambda Vision where we're printing retinas on orbit and using that to hopefully restore sight in other peoples that have lost sight through their age. We have the NICER experiment on board that allows us to change how we do CT scans here on Earth. So just a number of examples, and it's just an awesome time to be working on the International Space Station. Thank you.
I think I'll add one thing. I mean, I have a different perspective with a space shuttle background and also commercial crew, but I also see station as a great platform to learn about operations for exploration. If you just look at the 3 missions we flew, different kinds of missions, different vehicles this spring, that kind of cadence, some of the operations we're talking about for exploration requires this kind of cadence of missions in a rapid succession of flights. I think we're learning from that. I think the operations of station relative to exploration, lunar surface base that's formed for international partnership, the kind of things we're doing in low Earth orbit really do apply to how you would operate on the moon. I think the operations of this vehicle has been amazing. If you just think about the partnership operating with JAXA, Roscosmos, Canada, ESA, and NASA all together operating, and it really is a platform to learn of how we could do that in the future for Mars or the moon. I think that operational learning has been tremendous. I don't think we thought in the early instances of station much about how that would grow and learn, how we would learn over time. And so it's not just what Joel talked about with the technology, but we have done a lot of technology with laser comm and things like that. Station's a great platform for technology because you can fly something up, it has power, data, and return it to the ground, and then if it doesn't pan out, you can fly the next version of it. So that's sort of my perspective.
Yeah, somebody the other day said, these missions on the moon are going to be really, really complicated. And I told them, and they said, we're really worried you're going to be able to get that done. I said, you should go live for like 1 week with Joel. I said, we've got the expertise here to do this.
Well, just say one more thing. We are opening the door to other partners. So on the Crew-6 next year, we'll have a UAE astronaut flying for a 6-month duration on board the International Space Station.
So we could go on for another hour, but I think we're about up. But as you can see, we could talk about this for a while.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. You can see that their faces light up. They're really passionate about this, so thank you. It looks like we have had one more question added to the phone bridge, and it is from Jeff Faust with Space News.
Hey, good afternoon. Quick question for Benji. There are some debris spotted in Australia that people have linked to the Crew-1 trunk section. I'm curious if you were able to confirm that's the case, and have you done any changes to the design or operations of the vehicle to prevent large pieces of it from surviving reentry? Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question. Yeah, so we did get reports of debris from a Dragon trunk that had landed in the outback of Australia, and we actually have a team that's going there to check that out, and we've been working closely, of course, with the State Department and with FAA and with the Australian Space Agency. The important news is, of course, is that there was no injuries, no damage, and even and also importantly is this was all within the expected analyzed space of what can happen. So, as we know, when we as a space industry, we launch things and they come back in. You have an expected path of where things may come down, and this particular debris was within that analyzed space, and it's part of the process that we do with NASA, with FAA, internally, and we use models that are all jointly approved to predict and plan for these things. Nonetheless, just like we do for launches and any return, and as we do all the time, we look very closely at the data. We learn everything that we can, and we always look for ways that we can improve things. But again, this was within analyzed space, within expectation, and we're digging into it.
Great, thank you for that. And thanks to all who submitted questions today. And thanks to our briefers for taking time out of their busy schedules to support today's briefing to discuss the upcoming Crew-5 mission to the International Space Station. We hope you'll stick around for our next briefing just a short time from now, where you'll have the chance to hear from the Crew-5 astronauts. That briefing will begin at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Thanks again for joining us. That will wrap up today's briefing.